Thank you for joining me for a special podcast extra. We are celebrating women this Women's History Month, and joining me is Dr. ERIN JOY, who is in Missouri. Dr. JOY is a business psychologist and expert on midlife women in business. So she has spent years researching what women over 50, how they thrive as entrepreneurs, and she's got the data to prove it. Dr. JOY, I'm excited to talk to you about this.
I am delighted to be here, Joy. Thank you so much for having me to talk about such an important topic like midlife women entrepreneurs and women in business.
And you're basically a coach. You encourage, you push women, you get them to see things from maybe different vantage points and pushing their business to the next level. But you know what? I'll be honest with you, midlife, I guess that's what I am. I don't know. But when it comes to that, 54 years old, I feel like you better have your shizak together. You got to have it. What do you mean starting a new business? It's such a scary thing, but you're saying that this could be the perfect opportunity and time.
It is the perfect opportunity and it is the perfect time. Our peers, women who are 54 like you, 51 like me, who are older, who are younger, we bring so much life experience to the business world. We bring all of our business experience, decades and decades of real life working, producing results, making things happen. And I think that, Joy, I think this conversation is so timely because there are a lot of folks being displaced from their jobs right now. There's a lot of economic uncertainty happening in the United States at this exact time as we're celebrating Women's History Month. And so I think if we can empower people to think strategically about their next steps, that's the way that you and I can bring value here today. And so the tools that folks need to be thinking about as they're contemplating starting their own business or maybe expanding an existing business is first and foremost having the right advisors around them. And, oftentimes we have to pay for really good advice, but you can find a small business management consultant, a business coach, who you can pay to really help you fine-tune your idea, build out your plan and your budget, and get in action. So I would first start with the right advisors. And if you don't have a budget, and a lot of folks don't have a budget because they need to start the business and generate profit before they have the budget, there are so many free resources out there. My website has free resources at erinjoy.com. You can use artificial intelligence as almost of a business planning partner, so to speak. And you can go to friends and colleagues in the business world and run your concepts by them, run your business plan by them, use your network, which we'll talk about next.
Yes, you see me, I'm like itching to talk about it. You talk about this on your website. You offer roundtable services, and I'm wondering if someone can't afford to have big heavy hitters like you come in and, but maybe they can go to other business leaders that are like them in the community, friends. How do you kind of invite somebody to come and hang out and talk about me and my business and what do I do? I don't know what to do. You don't want to look like you're weak or know nothing. So how do you do that?
The reason that is so important is that the research shows that one of the drivers of entrepreneurial success is your social capital. So you, as a woman entrepreneur, as a woman in business, you can focus on your social capital. So that would be your network, who you know, who knows you. You can focus there, and you will see a positive result in your business success because the women in your network, the men in your network are the people who can help you solve your business problems. And again, if you don't have the budget to hire professional help, it is your network who is going to step in and help you find the right accountant, the right attorney, the right marketing company, to really, the right banker, to really move the needle in your business. And small business owners, one of the hallmarks of owning a small business is resource scarcity. And what that means is there's just never enough resources. And by the resources, we mean time, energy, and money. We can't have an accountant on staff, a chief marketing officer on staff, a chief human resources officer on staff in a small business. So we need our network to tell us, hey, who's the best marketing company who could help me reach my goals? And we're going to pay them as, what our budget allows to really produce results in the business. So the network is critical.
I'm taking notes here. So thank you. Also, I know it's very important to set goals. And for me, I'm a little, like I was telling you before we started this Zoom, I was telling you that I'm a little hesitant to set some goals that are so lofty that if I don't reach them, I'm like, I'm a failure. And then I just want to throw everything and I don't even care. So when it comes to setting goals, how do you go about doing that? Is there a strategy?
Yeah. I love helping people figure out what their goals are. And you're absolutely right, Joy, especially for, midlife women. We have all this experience. We have these big visions for ourselves and our lives. And we want to get those things lined up together so that when we set a goal, we can achieve it. And so first and foremost, in terms of strategy, I really recommend that business owners set goals across multiple categories. And we start with a financial goal or multiple financial goals. And we want to have those sit alongside non-financial goals. And when we go about goal setting in a more holistic approach, we tend to set goals that are realistic, both financial and non-financial, as well as goals for ourselves as women. Maybe they are well-being goals. What is required from me in terms of my well-being, my happiness, my health, my physical fitness, my mindset. What aspects of myself do I want to set goals in that are going to create the foundation for me to achieve those financial goals?
Now, it sounds like you're crossing the line there between work and personal, which is, when it comes to women, especially business women in power, you are working so hard that sometimes resources, sometimes time, you kind of cheat a little bit from the personal to solidify the business section. So give me some examples. Like, how do we balance those?
Yeah. Gosh, this is such a hot topic, Joy. I mean, anytime I talk about this with women in business, this is, this idea of work-life balance, always comes to the forefront. And you're absolutely right that a lot of business owners and women, I'm sure in corporate America, to achieve their goals, they sacrifice themselves. And I don't recommend that. And I've done that. I've been there. I have, 30 years of entrepreneurship under my belt. And I was really interested in the idea of, is our well-being and our wellness as women entrepreneurs, is it a driver of our success? And that is exactly what the research shows. And my research for my PhD program certainly supported. So I'm not alone. You're perhaps not alone. You and I together in, when our back's up against the wall and we've got more work than we can handle, that our well-being goes out the door and we make sure that we produce our business results. And, we're at the point now, if we're over 50, if we're over 45, if we're over 40 even, we don't have to do that. We can learn how to delegate more. We can learn how to say no more to things that aren't aligned really with achieving our goals. We can get better at prioritization. we can focus on our sleep so that we wake up more clear-minded, well-rested. Our bodies have been able to repair from the day before. Our minds have repaired and processed, the difficult things that happened the day prior. And so if we focus on our well-being and we think about it as a driver of our success, we reframe how we even think about it, not from it being optional, but actually a driver of our success and a driver of our goal achievement, that reframe can keep us more connected every day to the things that give us the energy to meet these demands of operating our businesses.
So if I'm hearing you right, I'm understanding that once we set our boundaries and priorities and list them, maybe even write them down, list our priorities, our goals, where we want to be, what we want to achieve, but make sure we don't go out of those boundaries once we set them, because that's so easy to do. You get sidetracked and want to help this and want to do that. So am I understanding that right?
You're absolutely understanding that right. It's so easy to create our plan and then to just get busy in service of the plan and forget what we're even doing, forget what we should be saying no to. And so, it's difficult to just set a boundary and then, maintain it. That's difficult to do. So we have to have some support structures around us. One of the support structures that I use, in addition to the people who support me in my business and who say, ERIN, you said you weren't going to take any more of this kind of client, and you just said yes to this. Like, you can't do that. You're not going to reach the goals that we have set if you do that. So that goes back to the network, by the way. If you don't have internal staff or your own coach, you want to have your network who helps keep you accountable to what you said you're truly committed to. But one of the things that I think of, Joy, when we think about maintaining boundaries is my calendar. I consider my calendar my mission control. And so you will see my goals that I have set reflected in my calendar. So my calendar reflects what time I need to go to bed, what time I get out of bed in the morning, what I'll do during my morning alone time before my day starts cranking. Everything that I am up to is reflected in my calendar, and that's a structure that helps me maintain those boundaries. And then what happens, Joy, and you can probably relate to this, I then take on too much. A bunch of stuff creeps in, like you said, right? That, like your example. So yeah. I say yes to this thing and that thing, and a new opportunity comes my way, and it feels aligned with what I'm up to, and I say yes to that, and then I have to pull back, and I have to rework those structures. So my calendar will become overflowing with things that I committed to, things that I overcommit to, because as a woman entrepreneur, as a woman in business, we are high achievers and we have lots of opportunities coming our way. That is a good thing. But we do have to, from time to time, reset and renegotiate and rework that schedule and that calendar based on who we are today, what's changed for us, and how our goals and priorities have shifted.
So how often does that happen to you? How often do you have to go back and recalibrate?
At least twice a year.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And that's normal. That's normal. To think that it is, to think that we're just going to we're going to create this plan and we're just going to work that plan, and that's all we have to do. It's just unrealistic, because we are going to have new opportunities. I just got off of a call before I jumped on with you, Joy, about buying another company. And so that, making room for that project to fit into my calendar is something that I have to do. And then other things are going to be reprioritized. So I'm doing a big overhaul in this kind of structure at least twice a year.
Wow. So, and then I have got to ask, when you talk about calendar, and I'm picking your brain because you have multiple businesses and you're successful. So when you're talking about a calendar, are you talking about a phone calendar? Are you talking about an open book calendar where you write stuff down? Do you do both? Do you connect them? How do you do your calendar?
Yeah, well, my recommendation is one and only one calendar, and ideally it's a digital calendar. So oftentimes that's a Google Calendar. Some people use Apple or they use Microsoft. And these are the three largest digital calendars that I interact with business owners. Um, there are IT specialists out there that your network will know who can sync your calendars together if you end up with, oh, my spouse has a calendar and we have a family thing over here, and my job uses a Microsoft calendar. There are ways to solve that. But what I'll say from an IT perspective, but what I would say is that the rule of thumb is one and only one calendar, and you are doing your calendaring work at your computer. So you can see your calendar in context, and you can see your goals reflected in your calendar of where you're spending time, including time that you schedule with yourself. So we're not using a calendar just for appointments with other people. We're time blocking the projects that we're working on that are going to advance our goals. And then we use our phones only as a point of reference. So if someone asks me, hey, ERIN, I see them out and about on the street here in St. Louis, Missouri, and they say, oh, can you get together for, happy hour on such and such date? I mean, I might glance at my calendar, but I am not on my phone, but I am not committing to anything until I can sit down at my desk and I can see, well, what was my day like starting in the morning? And what's tomorrow like? And is that evening that you're asking me to go out for an evening engagement, is that an evening that I'm actually scheduled to go to the gym and to do a little yoga and to get in the hot tub? Because I want to think about my answer to that invitation in the context of my day and my week.
So how much time, and I'm hearing that it's important, do you set aside for self-wellness? How much time, how often, like during the week, during the day, and what do you do? Is that praying? Is that reading? Is that going outside and run? Like, what does that look like?
That is
A
such a
lot of
good
questions.
question. It's such a good question. And I'm not one of those people who, has this morning routine where I get up and I have my coffee and then I journal and then I, go for a run. I struggle to get out of bed every morning. I like the comfort of my bed.
Right?
Um, and so, I know I'm not alone in that. And so, the tendency for me, is to only really focus on my well-being every other weekend when I don't have my daughter, and to do a big reset and recovery every other weekend. And I am unworking that plan right now. So for me, number one is for my personal well-being, which drives my business well-being and my financial well-being. My number one focus, first and foremost, is sleep. And the most important thing for me around sleep is nailing my wake up and out of bed time. So for my life to work, for my businesses to work, I really need to be out of bed no later than 5:30 a.m. And I don't want to do that, but it makes such a difference in my overall well-being. And so I focus on 6 to 7 hours of sleep, and getting up out of bed no later than 5:30 a.m. Number one, focus on
You go
sleep.
to bed. Sorry, quick question in between. What's
Yeah, I really aim for 10 p.m.
okay?
Yeah, lights out at 10 p.m. And now the next focus with my well-being, is get that phone out of my face
Uh,
between 9:30 and 10 so that it's easier to fall asleep. So these are the kinds of things that I, bring to the conversation with my own coach, with my therapist. I am hard at work on my personal well-being. So I've got sleep. I've got hydration. I constantly have water, at my hand. I'm never without water. So I focus on hydration. I focus on moving my body a little bit every day. I don't have a big exercise goal. This morning I was able to get out of bed on time and I did, a 12-minute yoga practice and I feel great. So, a little bit of daily movement. I think one of the most important aspects for me of my well-being, what I mentioned a moment ago, is working with a therapist. You know, I I really need to see my amazing master therapist once a week and kind of process out all the things that happened to me in the week prior, or the things that happened to me 10 years ago, or 20 years ago, or 40 years ago. And to look at my mental well-being and how that impacts, my happiness, my parenting, and my performance, as well as many other categories of my life.
And which makes sense. I mean, everybody's coming to you with their problems. Let's figure out my life. And you're like, okay, I got to figure out mine too. So, and I was just thinking, for those who may not have access to like a mental health therapist or a coach, maybe they go to a pastor, maybe they go to a community leader who, but which can be free.
Any kind of really great supportive connection. That might be one or two really good friends, and you are staying in close contact with them, and they're sharing things and connecting with you. You're sharing and connecting with them. Look, I've been a small business owner for 30 years. There have been many, many times through my career that I have not been able to afford a coach, that I have not been able to afford a master therapist. It's tough today, even with multiple businesses. I'm a single mom. Of a teenager in private school, and I pay her tuition. I have student loan debt from completing my master's and my PhD program. I'm not over here rolling in the dough. I am here prioritizing what really is meaningful to me and what really sets me up to live the kind of life that I want to live.
Gosh, I'm ingesting that. I mean, this is some great stuff. Now,
Yeah.
and I know we got off the rails from talking about business, but this is
Yeah.
wonderful. This is about life. So
That's right, because it's all connected. It's all connected.
I appreciate you sharing that, because that allows
Yeah.
me and others to just to connect and say, okay, she's got this issue. She's got these things she's dealing with.
Yeah.
She's just like me. So thank
Yeah.
you for that. And I do want to talk about, we've been focusing on women who are business leaders, business owners. What if you are working for someone? You got a job, which is
Yeah.
great. You have a job. Are there ways that you can repurpose your position or make something more out of it, get more fulfillment out of it, or, kind of revamp, just re.
That's right. Refresh, redo,
Yeah.
everything. Yeah.
And,
Renegotiate.
it might be a job you've been in for 15 years and you're like,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
this is solid for me. I'm not going to leave it. So,
Yeah.
maybe you have some advice for those women.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think women in business who are working for an organization, a company, need to be as intentional about their futures as women entrepreneurs are. And I think a lot of the same principles hold. Women in business can connect with colleagues and find out how their successful colleague has gone about their career pathing. When it was time to make a pivot, how did they go about that? How did they plan for it? How did they pitch it to the company that they work for, to their boss or their supervisor? How long did it take? So the same principles apply. So we can set goals, we can envision how we want our lives and our careers to look. We can use our social support, that is our networks. We can attract mentors. And, mentors generally are not paid for providing guidance and advice and counsel to another person. So, any of us can go attract a mentor to us by, thinking of the top 3 to 5 people who we really admire, taking them out for a $5 cup of coffee and just bending their ear about their career and seeing what advice they have for us once we've set our goals and crafted our vision. And it does take, Joy, you mentioned it earlier, it does take some vulnerability. It takes some bravery to step into a conversation to say, this is what I've done so far, and I don't know what to do next, and I would love to hear your advice. And so let's first start with, really kind of digging down deep and finding courage in ourselves that we need in order to step into that kind of conversation.
And I am going to wrap it up with this. Tell me a little bit about your background through the years, what these businesses that you're a part
Yeah.
of. And, now, is it just now that you've pivoted? Well, I shouldn't say now, but later on in your career that you pivoted to your own business? Or, was there a point where you worked for someone, and how did that look?
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you for asking that. I grew up in a small business family, so I'll start there. I was a young girl, and my parents started their own business in the dining room of our childhood home. And I saw my parents become upwardly mobile through entrepreneurship.
What did they do?
And they owned an insurance agency as their primary business. They had the network, they had friends around them who were successful in insurance. They were both teachers. And they said, well, with 3 kids, we're not going to make any money as teachers. And look at our friends over here with this insurance business. We could get into insurance. And that's what they did. And they built that business up. They sold it 35 years later. They fulfilled their dream of living on a boat in Florida, which is where they are right now. They're not in Jacksonville. They're on the other side of the, they're in the Gulf.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I saw my parents do basically what I do today of building a business. And so I studied business in college, and I decided to get into real estate right out of college, which was a business that my parents eventually owned as well. And I loved the idea of being my own boss, calling the shots, making my own schedule, and earning as much income as my hard work could produce. And so for the last 30 years, I've been self-employed, and I've had, everything from a solo real estate practice back in the day to, what business is like today. And I have had a brief foray during very stressful times in my life where I worked for someone else. But essentially, I've been self-employed for 30 years. Go ahead.
No. Finish.
Okay.
Keep going.
I moved from real estate to the working in the home building industry and consulting the home building industry. And when the housing industry crashed in 2007, I knew the skill set I had developed was transferable, that consulting and selling and problem solving, I could do that in a wide variety of industries. And that's when I created this company. I decided to work with women in business across all industries to help them achieve their goals as a business coach and as a management consultant. So if I fast forward to today, about 80% of my time is spent in my business coaching practice, where I facilitate entrepreneur roundtables. Folks come into my office once a month, and this the same group coming together every single month, and we process out business issues. And the network, so to speak, weighs in on your business issue or my business issue. I've facilitated over 700 roundtables in my career. I work with business owners one-on-one, where they just walk into my office and tell me their problems, and we get to work on them or their opportunities. It's not just problems. There are opportunities that come their way. I help folks buy and sell companies. I do a little teaching at Washington University here in St. Louis. And then 20% of my time, I have business partners. And in the companies that I own with business partners, they're all centered on construction, which is my roots in business and my love in business. I own a granite countertop company, granite fabrication company, a small remodeling company, a little real estate development company, and we're looking at a couple more acquisitions.
Well, no wonder you have a calendar.
That's right, Joy. That is right. You've got to have a calendar that's your mission control at that point.
Holy moly. Let me ask you one little part of that. When you decided you had value in knowledge and experience, with age, with working, was it scary for you to transition and to start your own thing when it came to helping others and taking that knowledge and sharing it? So that other people could thrive in their business? Was it scary to start that part? Because you're basically starting from scratch, and it's based on you and what's in your brain, and taking that out and making it a nice little present that you hope somebody wants to take.
Yes, it was a deeply emotional time. The housing industry had just crashed. I made no money in 2007. I mean, I think my total income was like $27,000 as a single woman. Um, and I remember, Joy, less about the fear and more about the emotional struggle that it was for me to give myself permission to let my light shine in that way, to not shrink myself, diminish myself, tell myself that, I don't have what it takes, or I'm not accomplished enough. I don't have enough value to offer. And it's not okay for me to just kind of unleash myself in this way. And that was more of the struggle for me than the fear. I was too young to understand how risky it was, what I was, embarking upon. Now I know. And now I have more fear than I did back then. Just keep everything going the way that it's going now and not mess it up at age 51. There's not as much time to recover. So I think it's different for everyone. For some people, it's fear. For some people, it is like me. It's like, can I really, like, do I really deserve this? Do I really deserve to do what I truly want to do with myself? So it's different for everyone, which is why talking to your pastor, talking to your best girlfriend, talking to your coach or your therapist, talking to your spouse, and processing all of this out is important. We have to kind of untangle ourselves so that we can show up as fully as we really are committed to.
Dr. ERIN Joy, I could keep on going. I am loving this conversation, and I feel like I'm getting a personal therapy lesson. So thank you so much for sharing your own experiences so that other people
Thank
can
you.
be motivated by that.
That's so sweet. Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure, and truly, Joy, it's just an honor to be asked to be here with you and to share with your audience. So thank you.